So, ladies and gentlemen, the mining industry, which is a custodian of about 30% of the world's critical minerals here in Africa, and also home to about a 5 billion active deal pipeline as of 2023. Right now, this industry is not just under pressure, it is also under scrutiny. It is under a very big microscope. And so at the same time, clean energy investments have reached a staggering $2 trillion globally. And this is as of 2024. And Africa, we have immense potential. However, we've only attracted about 3% of that capital that is going towards green energy. And so that gap from where we're standing with my panelists, it is an incredible opportunity. And I want us to be able to articulate it in a way that from this room, going out there, we need to realize that potential. The momentum is absolutely building. And from B2Gold solar powered operations that are in in Namibia, to Zambia and the DRC. Here in Botswana, we have our own Jindal Energy, which is also doing incredible work. But now we have about an ambition of 30% emissions reduction, which are basically backed by about 430 megawatts of hybrid renewables. This shows what is possible. It's just but a drop. And I like this because I know that my friend Jonathan is going to be talking about what Botswana's potential really is about. And so I want us in this panel to effectively address how do we mobilize capital and accelerate decarbonization in a market already rich with opportunity. And how are we going to actively pursue the 5 billion in transactions? Second, I would like for us to effectively come here knowing how we're going to design partnerships that are going to be aligning with mining houses, with governments, with financiers, and multilaterals to unlock sustainable capital for us. And last but not least, I want us to develop and to also be very clear on how we will ensure that carbon neutrality becomes more than just a compliance target, that in effect, it becomes a catalyst for inclusive growth and targeting the grassroots people that, as we've been hearing about the various initiatives that mining companies are doing in the various communities. So we need to have that very, very clear. And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring the conversation right to you, Ishmael. If you could just take us through, the Building Forever, which is now headlining in terms of, your commitment towards achieving carbon neutrality by 2030.
Thank you, moderator, and good morning to the audience. As introduced, my name is Ishmael Motlhale from Debswana. Hope I'm audible. The Building Forever Sustainability Framework has been broadly defined by Rachel in the earlier presentation. And if you may just recall what Rachel spoke to, Building Forever is about eliminating fatalities, ensuring that we are safe. It's about protecting the natural world, which is what I'm going to dwell more on. It's also about taking care of our people and communities in which the communities around us is around focusing on women and girls, women-led businesses. It's about being a trusted corporate leader in the global scheme of things. Allow me to bring it home to carbon neutrality, which is the space in which I lead. As Debswana, we recognize our significant contribution to the emissions of, look at it from the Botswana perspective, we contribute about 14% of overall Botswana emissions. So I think that's quite significant for a single entity to be pumping so much CO2 or carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. when you look at it from the perspective of De Beers, we are also quite significant. We contribute about 51%. So that means we emit a lot more than all other De Beers mines put together. So we recognize the fact that we are quite significant. And we have come up with a strategy of how we are going to then minimize or mitigate our impact to the environment. And we thereby then came up with a commitment to say by 2030, we are going to be carbon neutral. 2030 is about 5 years ago, 5 years to come.
5 years from now, absolutely.
Yeah, so, this is a commitment that we made 5 years ago, and we are left with only 5 years. So this is we find this to be quite challenging, but it is doable. But for us to get there, I'll just briefly take you through what we are doing as Debswana and what opportunities lie in that transition to carbon neutrality. Our strategy has got 4 pillars. The first pillar looks at how we could reduce our energy intensity, and it's about driving efficiencies. So we have come up with energy efficiency initiatives, with the intent being we want to achieve or be able to do the same work with less energy and thereby reduce emissions. So for us, this is quite important, and it's a low-hanging fruit in that if you use less energy to do the same work, same amount of work, then it's actually money in your pocket, or you're actually saving. So an opportunity that exists for stakeholders or partners is around helping us coming up with innovative ideas, or coming up with proposals of what we could do or how you could be of service to us to make sure that our processes become more efficient. Another lever is around deploying renewable electricity, green electricity. We have started with putting up rooftop solar installations in our operations, but working within the confines of the legal framework that is there, it is constraining, if I may put it that way, in that the instrument that is in place, there's a rooftop solar program which says you can put up to so much. So we have put rooftop solar installations in our operations, but still working within that legal framework, we then found an opportunity to then look for partnerships. That's when we reached out to the ministry, we reached out to BPC, and you may have seen over the past few weeks, there was publication on the agreement that we went to with BPC so that we could get renewable power from the grid. This, for us, I think it's a win-win situation in that we, as Debswana, we want to focus on the core, which is mining efficiently, but then it then allows BPC to give us that power, because the opportunity that also exists is that green power comes with environmental attributes. You may be familiar with renewable energy certificates. So this is a tradable commodity. So it's actually additional revenue to the. Another lever is around exploring alternatives to the use of diesel. We use diesel in quite significant quantities in our operations. So we are looking for us to get to carbon neutrality, then we need to then move away from diesel or reduce emissions associated with diesel. And again, in the spirit of effective partnerships, we have worked with the University of Botswana, where we looked at testing the use of biodiesel in our operations. In Botswana Oil is also part of that collaboration, and we're actually looking into how we could expand or upscale that initiative so that we could have biofuel in large quantities to be able to supply our earth-moving machines.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ishmael. I love the fact that you've noticed this incredible opportunity and have already created such a very extensive strategy to directly address some of the challenges that you are facing in achieving that energy mix and reducing your emissions. And I think talking about complex responsibility, I think which other company other than MCM and in the coal industry basically is under under scrutiny to ensure that they reduce emissions while feeding the nation. And so, Pat, I would like for you to just take us through some of your key ESG and sustainability initiatives that you have actively, or that you have actively introduced and are working towards now.
From Morumple Coal Mine, obviously we have implemented ESG in our production to ensure that we mine productively and we mine in a safe manner, and also to ensure that we are sustainable and we contribute into the sustainable growth and development. So obviously we have pillars that pertains to the ESG strategy, where we are looking at environmental stewardship and also climate change risks and management. In our climate change risk management, we're also looking at neutralizing our carbon. We have targets, for an example, 35% reduction, of our greenhouse emissions by 2030 to ensure that we reduce, our carbon emissions. And further to that, we've got 65% reduction by 2050 to ensure that we are carbon neutral. And obviously, we're looking at other initiatives that will get us there, and that is our beyond coal strategy that we are looking at, where we are looking at capturing methane to ensure that we reduce our carbon, and also as a transition to clean energy, obviously. And also we're looking at your green hydrogen that we would use into our agriculture, seeing that Botswana is keen in terms of agriculture, and we're also looking at blue hydrogen to ensure that we take or we decontaminate our water, or the mine water, to ensure that we can also use it into agriculture as well. Further to that, we are also looking into coal waste, to use the coal waste in terms of extracting the rare earth elements that are contained in this specific commodity, which is coal, and to ensure that we extract the sulfur that is in there, to use it for fertilizers, to use it in an agricultural perspective as well. So those are basically the, I would say, projects that we are looking at for the future to ensure that, Morumple stands out even beyond coal, as we know that, in the industry we are not, we would like to have cleaner energies. Also looking into a solar PV project that we can do, whether it's internally to ensure that we decarbonize, and also from an external perspective, to ensure that, we also use that solar to sell it to BPC and offset our carbon for the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. We've been seeing over the past few years so much technology geared towards helping coal mining companies to decarbonize. And I love the fact that you've included that in your strategy. It is a broader conversation that I do want to have a follow-up question to you on. But before I do that, I think it's quite imperative. I mean, we already know that talking about technology and introducing these new technologies to help us decarbonize, it needs financing. And so, Reseho, I want you to take us through instruments or models that are currently available to offer support in terms of like mining companies in that decarbonization strategies?
Just to delve into your question, I think us at RMB consider ourselves the leaders in sustainable finance. And we do have a wide array of products that are designed to move the country along the green pathway, right? So we have your traditional products, we have your traditional products, which are your green bonds or loans. These are use of proceed instruments in which the funds are earmarked for projects that have a positive economic impact, right? We also have, and maybe less common in Botswana, or well, I guess both are not so common. I think our first green bond issuance occurred last year in the country. But we do have social bonds, which are aimed at targeting projects that have a positive social outcome. So things like, such as affordable housing, as well as helping underserved population, promotion of women in business, things of that nature. And then for particularly carbon-intensive industries, we do have sustainability-linked instruments, which, unlike the previous instruments I've just mentioned, are not use of proceeds instruments, but are targeted providing capital, which can be used for, for your ordinary operations, but with a financial benefit that is targeted at specific sustainability targets over a period of time. Right. In addition to that, for companies, large companies, call it such as your Debswanas, who do have a large supplier base, we have instruments such as sustainable supply chain finance solutions, which are targeted at ensuring that your supply chain is also moving in a carbon neutral manner, and they can then be provided a financial benefit or incentive for acting in that way. That also allows Debswana to influence sustainability beyond their own operations, but throughout their value chain as well. Right? And I think for companies like Morumple as well, and I think Patricia has touched a lot on what they're doing, and it's quite amazing. There are evolving sustainable finance instruments that are entering the market, such as your carbon financing, which essentially allows you to purchase carbon credits from projects that have a positive environmental impact, and that allows you to offset any carbon emissions that you are not able to reduce fully within your operations. We do acknowledge that not all operations can allow you to fully reduce emissions, and this is where mechanisms of this nature come into place. And then I think what is probably going to be topical moving forward, and just given the amount of funds that have been availed globally for climate financing, is blended finance, which is essentially a mixture of public and private funding. This is to ensure that we're able to assist each other in mitigating risks that maybe, for instance, a private bank would not have the same risk tolerance as a public or a multilateral institution. So there's a better trade-off between risks in that situation.
Very, very important conversation there, Rez. Just as our country is also gearing towards coming up with a framework for PPP modeling for priority sector, priority projects. And so I know Jonathan has been dying to get on this one. And really it's about just the private sector's role in energy transition that we really cannot overstate. And so Jonathan, I want you to take us through just the renewable energy landscape in Botswana, the opportunities, and what is it that we need to be doing right very now.
Thank you, Shamil, and thank you, fellow panelists, Ishmael, Pat, Liz. Promise, Shamil, I mix it up a little bit. And those of you that know me, I will mix it up a little bit. The Honorable Motsekwa, I thought of how I opened the remarks here, and I think the term back to the future and back to the future of mining might be apt. There was a time in Gaborone when Gaborone was run by the electricity in Gaborone was run by a 5 to 10 megawatt coal-fired power station that was where the BPC headquarters are now. And when all of us got home in the evening and switched on our geysers, the circuit breaker for Gaborone would trip. And when that happened, the BHC and the government made it a policy that every single rooftop in Gaborone should have solar water heating systems on, and the circuit breaker didn't trip. I'm going to talk about that at the national level there right now, that some kind of circuit breaker is tripping right now with the scare we've got and the challenge we've got in the diamond climate, the scare and the reality that we're facing as a world with climate change. And in that, there's an opportunity. And in that, in the window of time we have right now, addressing the Honorable Minister Motsekwa, because it's very interesting. And I'm saying this, it's unfortunate that the CEOs of the big mining houses have stepped out. I see some of the next level down in the room. So my request is that you take this message to the CEOs, because we've got a very interesting window of opportunity in Botswana with the new leadership that we have, that is talking bold, that is taking Botswana to the world. And it coincides with the same time when we have the story that we need to tell to salvage our diamond situation. It's ironic, and I'm putting this challenge to the business people in the room here, that I grew up as a little boy in Gaborone watching Kenneth Koma and Paul Rantau at Freedom Squares rallying the population, and with a very, very direct communist socialist agenda and message. The consistent thread in all of that has been a dedication to the people of Botswana. And it's ironic right now that the BNF and the UDC leading the government today is talking the business language that the business community would like to hear almost more than anyone else in the recent last couple decades. The Honorable Minister right now spoke about decentralizing and the power of decentralizing. He spoke emphatically true to the pedigree of this current government's history of taking care of the population. So the Back to the Future story I'm going to give is a little bit and paint some very stark images. One of the previous speakers, I forget who highlighted it, the Gini index. For those of you who don't know the Gini index, it's a measurement of the level at which there's inequality in society. We're sitting in this room, almost everyone in this room is relatively comfortable in the job they have, in the quality of life that they live. But we are this tiny little sliver at the top of the income strata in Botswana. And there's a huge, Botswana's Gini index, the gap between those that have a little bit and a large population that's really, really struggling is amongst the highest in the world. I just looked it up right now. Right now we rank number 5 in a world with the 200 countries to measure from. That can't tell a good story. So we just do not have a choice. The first opening remarks by the Honorable Minister and the leaders of the diamond industry talked about telling the Botswana story. And the Botswana story has to be a wholesome story of the success of our country as a whole, not just the success of one mining house or another mining house or one financial institution. We have an opportunity right now with the leadership that we have right now to pull it together in Team Botswana and tell the story. So a challenge that we go into system thinking mode as a private sector and tap into the calls that are being made by leadership. Leadership counts for something there. How it relates to what the opportunity we have right now and the topic of this panel discussion very directly is decarbonizing and creating carbon neutrality. The government has put a challenge there of us going bold on energy and exporting to the region. How do we do that? If we accomplish that, we will, as a private sector, have helped the mining houses deliver on the story they need to tell and the mission that they have. But how do we do it? Do we do it if we make a transition from large centralized fossil fuel generation to large centralized clean energy sources, which is sort of the path we're on right now, we'll have checked the box on making the clean energy transition, but we'll have missed an opportunity for the democratizing of power, literally. The current technologies provide for putting renewable energy on every single rooftop. So, Minister Motsekwa, the Bonno housing scheme, as it's unfolding right now, and Ishmael, Pat, the banks in the house there, the Bonno housing scheme as it's emerging right now. There's talk of this already, and so I credit to the Ministry of Energy. They have, I think, communicated officially to the Ministry of Housing. The Bonno housing scheme, the asset ownership, the economic empowerment that comes with that. Imagine if it came together with a small solar system with a little bit of battery storage, an electric vehicle plug-in point, an internet connection, and the connection to a smart grid managed masterfully by BPC, and BPC has the capabilities to do that with the correct investment in infrastructure to do that. They have the people to allow every single household to participate in the savings from and the earnings from and the ownership of that asset generation asset. The aggregation of 100,000 houses into what we'd call a virtual power station that can trade with BPC, to BPC to Debswana, and literally bring power to the people. The challenge I put out there is that there's opportunities now for us to think creatively, pull it together, work with the emerging power stations, Jindal and others. Jindal has a strong pedigree in renewable energy overseas and everything. Kick into Team Botswana mode, think system thinking, and really make it happen. So the challenge really is Team Botswana mode and connect the dots with us as team members.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Let's do that again, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I let him go on. He walked right into his own perceptions or perspective in terms of like what it would take for us to really realize the opportunities in Botswana. And so I really like that you also got to challenge the private sector, Jonathan. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm told that we only have like 2 minutes, I guess. So I'm just gonna go across the room, across the panel here. I'll start with you, Patricia, in terms of like, very briefly, what is next for MCM?
Okay, so for MCM, as I've said, our Beyond Coal strategy seeks to transform MCM into being a partner of choice globally in terms of energy transition. So we have taken a strategic decision to diversify our revenue stream. The plan is to actually target a 50% of our revenue to come from non-coal activities by 2035. That is basically an ambitious target that we have. But for the coming 12 months, like I've said, we will be looking into initiatives such as the solar PV, both the internal and the external use in terms of decarbonizing our operation and developing and investing in utility scale solar and energy storage initiative. Like I said, to offset our coal and also look into coal byproduct initiatives for sulfuric acid production and also looking into the blue and green green hydrogen that will feed into the emerging hydrogen economy.
Thank you.
So these initiatives are currently being studied from a technology maturity perspective and also from an economic feasibility perspective, and their relevance to MCM's future and also the mandate as well as the fit within Botswana's energy future. So MCM will keep looking into the industry in terms of initiatives that we can leverage on and also the partnerships that we can make. Hence, that has also been echoed into this summit this year. So we need to budget, we need to put funds in place to ensure that we investigate, we study, we partner to ensure the future of Morumple and also the future of the country, as we are the main suppliers to BPC to ensure that the entire country has electricity at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patricia. We've run over time, ladies and gentlemen, but it would be amiss for me not to ask Reseho and Ishmael just in one sentence or even one word to define the future of financing for decarbonization in Botswana, and to you, Ishmael, as well. You've recently signed with BPC. What does that look like? Because it's a benchmark for the industry in Botswana. So maybe just one word or two words or something like that. Please don't take it beyond a minute. Or maybe let me just take the questions and then we could back them up with that. Any hand? 1, 2, 3 takers. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. One hand. I see
Have
you.
some roving
2.
mics that
I
should
see
be.
you there.
Afternoon, everyone. My question will be to RMB. You had mentioned that within your financing instruments, there is an aspect of supply chain decarbonization that entities like Debswana, MCM could adopt as well as part of financing. The question would be, what would that really mean? I don't know if I should be asking you or even mining houses, but what would that actually mean to the suppliers? In the sense that, does it mean that this can support entities that work with equipment, supply of equipment and all those, have original equipment or original component manufacturing capabilities? In that way, assisting such entities to cut down on logistical emissions, which are also called Scope 3 emissions, bringing manufacturing here in Botswana, and also making sure that it has larger economic impact.
Thank you so much. Second question.
Thank you. Nancy Kay from Inolid Consulting. My question is, oh, by the way, Mr. Solomon, you're my guy. The question is directly to finance. As you all know, mining critical minerals, green energy, you name it, is devastating to the environment. And my question is to the financiers. In your instruments, when you're financing or issuing bonds, what conditions do you have for social and environmental accountability? And how do you ensure the people that you finance, the companies that you finance, are actually meeting those environmental and social conditions? Very important in this arid country for water intensity, water pollution, for waste, for displacement of communities, and so forth. So we need to appreciate the actual role of the financing institutions in ensuring environmental and social accountability. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think, Russ, you can go ahead and address those 2 questions. It was just leading towards your catalytic investing, what it looks like in real practice. Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. Supply chain financing solutions were I was referring to. That is more in regards to assisting Debswana in managing Scope 3 emissions along their value chain, right? So, for example, if they have the current SEEP program where they're onboarding a lot of local suppliers, right, we can then provide financing to those suppliers on the back of the strength of Debswana, right? And in that financing, we're able to then offer them concessionary financing or pricing incentives if they're able to meet certain sustainability KPIs. But in terms of your other point around helping develop suppliers locally in terms of manufacturing and other facets of their supply of the value chain, we do engage regularly, and that's where partnerships come into play. Partnerships between ourselves and the mines, where we have MOUs for the funding of their suppliers. We are signatory to the Citizen Economic Empowerment Program. I think we've pledged about 1 billion pula towards assisting firms in ensuring that they're able to become long-term suppliers to Debswana, but as well as grow their own businesses beyond just supplying Debswana and look to other mining houses and other markets as well. I hope that answers you.
Yeah, you did answer. Thank you so much for that. I think you're on to your last words, Ishmael, before we could wrap it up. Oh, he didn't. Oh, okay.
Thank you also for the question. So I think what you raise is a very good point around are we ensuring that by promoting renewable projects, we're doing it in a responsible manner and not doing any harm to the environmental communities around us, right? So those are all assessments that we carry out in any financing decision, not just when we're doing green bonds or social bonds or anything of that nature. We have a rigorous environmental and social risk assessment that we go through, and there's committees that ensure that we monitor your waste management policy, we monitor your relations with workers, we monitor your energy intensity and things of that nature to ensure that we are not essentially greenwashing in anything that we do avail to our borrowers.
Perfectly addressed. Thank you. Ishmael, to you.
Thank you. You had asked about our relationship with BPC.
Yeah.
What that means is that Debswana would be able to then have renewable energy to its operations. But what is important is is realizing that green energy will only be available during the day. So an opportunity that exists is on energy storage, because our ambition is to be carbon neutral by 2030. We are going to be receiving power, green power for the day. We still have to solve for what happens at night time, because we run 24 hours operations. So it's an opportunity that exists that we're looking for partners to join hands or come and collaborate with us in resolving that issue. What's next for Debswana? We are acknowledging that we may not be able to replace all emissions. There is yet another opportunity around carbon capture or recovering carbon emissions. So again, we are looking for partnerships in terms of entities, individuals that can help us resolve the residual emissions after we have replaced with electricity, with storage, with efficiency. Those residual emissions we are yet to solve for. So there is an opportunity there. He mentioned scope 3. For you to get to net zero, you need to look beyond emissions within your influence, but then look at value chain emissions as well. So that's another phase that we'll be stepping into to collaborate with stakeholders throughout our value chain to see how we can then bring down the value chain emissions. I'll go as far.
Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, the conversation is extensive. We didn't get to cover carbon accounting. We didn't get to cover carbon taxation and the incredible opportunity that lies in there. And so they are here. Please make sure that you talk to them. But I'm going to give Jonathan to sum up what I should have said. And so quite literally.
I didn't think we came here to look at, and the people in this room, our ambitions and the brains in this room and the youth in this room and the leadership we have didn't come to look at how we just provide the green power that each of the mines requires, or even the green power that the whole country requires. Green capital, green technology, renewable energy, the entrepreneurship that goes with that, the thousands of youth-led businesses that could be installing systems and the experience they build from that are products and skills that we as a nation with our small market can take to the world. And so the urge and encouragement is that we take advantage of this window of opportunity and the anchor initiatives from the mining houses to build a capacity that we then take to the world. The stage has been set. And if you listen carefully to the leadership right now, the minister said it themselves, they're busy setting up capital exchanges and Botswana Stock Exchange is doing some work. And so to the foreign investors that are in the room also, let's together build the technology and use Botswana as a launch pad for taking technology to the region and beyond. We've done it before. Let's bring it home and do it more. Thank you.
Thank you so much to my incredible panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, let's use Botswana as a launch pad. Thank you so much.